and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. This podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. It's everything you need to make freelancing easier. Find out more at rounded.com.au.
Also, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, Rounded is giving you 20% off an annual subscription plan. Upgrade to gold membership for all the details. Hi Lynn, how's it all going with you?
Well, I'm great actually. It's Friday and I've just finished a couple of big projects and I'm in that lovely low stress phase where I'm lining up the next ones, but the deadlines are still a few days away. What about you?
I'm in the middle of the stress project phase where I've got a lot to do and the weekend is looming and I know I'll be working the weekend. And also COVID has finally hit my house. My kid has COVID. No. So I'm masked up and I've got the Glen 20 and not so fun, this part of the woods.
No. Yeah, well, I've heard you can even dodge it even when someone has it right next to you. So you never know, fingers crossed.
Yes.
But given you've got a sick child at home, we're lucky to have another short episode today because that's just us. Because our guests are dropping like flies with, you guessed it,
COVID. They are dropping like flies with COVID. We have some really good guests coming up, everybody.
We do.
If they get well.
Yes. But maybe we should kick on with it before one of us drops down with COVID.
Yes.
Today we're tackling the importance of building your contact book or your contact file, which is a bit of the old school journalist name. Mm-hmm. It's a huge asset for journalists, copywriters, and content writers. But I think many of us keep that content and all that info in our head. What about you?
Yes, I think we did an episode on this, which some listeners might be thinking, hang on, have you done an episode like this? That was about how to research the right experts and sources. So a little bit different. Today, we're focusing on building your content contact book.
Oh, wow. That's a mouthful.
Try and say that really fast 3 times.
I think I'll pass on that one.
Well, do you really keep all your experts and sources in your head?
I think I really do, actually. It's terrible to admit. I mean, most of them are in my phone. My phone is just got so many contacts or my emails. And I know you find it stressful, but I keep most of my emails. I think I've got 21,000 in my inbox at the moment, which I'm sure is giving you palpitations.
I keep most of my emails, but I file them differently to you. I have lots of folders. Oh, yeah, I try to clear the inbox, but you keep them all in your inbox.
I keep them all in the inbox. So I usually do a search either by name or subject matter when I'm looking for experts and sources, and I usually names pop up. I think, oh yeah, she was really good, or he'd be really good at that, or whatever. I do have some really good files, like not in my inbox. So I tend to do a trawl of previous stories, which I use as a memory jogger for good sources. So I might think, oh, didn't I do a story on, for Home Beautiful on this? Yeah, they might be good. And I'll have a look at it. It might be 2 or 3 years old, but I think, oh, that's right. That's a good place to go or whatever.
Yes. I do the same thing, trawling old stories, but a little bit differently to you. I will get all my old stories out, trawl them and strip out the experts and put them into my source tracker or my folk app. And so I've got them categorized. So I really think I want to hire a VA to do that. Just come and trawl all my old content, stories, features and everything and pull those experts out because there's so much gold in those stories. But I used to be a little bit like you, a little bit half in my head and half in the source tracker. We sell this tool at Rachel's List, which is a really good tool for keeping your experts and sources in one place. But since I've become really serious about creating this as like a valuable resource that I can tap into and categorizing my experts and sources and keeping those records updated, it's just become so much easier to, approach those stories when you do have to interview people, I think.
All right. Do you still use the source tracker? Or because you have an online expert sort of file, don't you?
Yeah, the one I just mentioned, that Folk app. It's like an online CRM. But I still use the source tracker, but Folk I use as well because together they sort of help me build that content database. And also Folk has a really good function where it has like a Chrome extension. I might have mentioned this before, but it integrates with LinkedIn. So you can click on an expert or a source's profile in LinkedIn and funnel them straight into your CRM into the right category with just the press of a button, which is genius and saves me a lot of time.
That is genius. That's great.
Yeah.
I love LinkedIn for keeping in touch with contacts too. I make a point of connecting with all my clients and often my sources, like when I do a story. So I keep in touch with people even if they move companies and change email addresses, because I deal a lot with PRs, particularly in homewares and things like that, and they move a lot. And I often find that my contacts are out of date next time I need them. Like, for instance, I might do a story on kitchen appliances, something like ovens, and then 4 months later I do something on fridges, similar companies, similar brands, and half those PR people have already left.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keeping it up to date, but most of them tend to update their LinkedIn. So that's what I do. And if I can, I try and connect with the end client. So it might be Samsung or Miele or something like that. And I speak to the marketing manager. I don't tend to liaise day to day with them, but if I've got their details, that means I can update my contacts next time I'm doing the story.
Yeah.
But I think you're making me think I have to overhaul my contacts file. I'm feeling quite bad now after all this. You're so much more organized. But what do you think it's done for you being so strategic?
I think, it's just, it comes back to that whole need to have systems, to have really good systems. And the obvious one in having good systems is that it saves you heaps of time and it stops you having to keep all that info in your head, which I'm finding I was doing so much of that it was just leading me straight to burnout.
It gets exhausting.
It does, yeah. And also just such a time saver, but there's been lots of, silver linings to having everything really organized, having all those contacts organized. I mean, last week an editor got in touch with me about a household budget story and wanted this specific type of expert. And in past years, I might have said, look, I'll get back to you, and then gone down the rabbit hole trying to find the perfect source. But because I have these organized categories of experts and I write on so many different topics, I could go back to that editor and just in 2 minutes offer up. I think I offered her a financial journalist who'd just written a book on budgeting. And I also offered her a money coach who'd be perfect for that outlet's sort of demographic. And the editor was just stoked and she picked the expert she wanted straight away and we were away. And I think that sort of kind of thing really helps to build your reputation. Editors talk, and if they know that you have that decent contacts book and lots of sources you can put your finger on quickly and you can mobilize quickly, that can help you get more work as well.
Oh, for sure. I get a lot of work because of my contacts, because people know that's what all my clients say, and even like the magazines. And that's the other thing, as well as PR people. I mean, the magazine staff changes all the time as well. So sometimes they're still getting their head around the new niche or the new sort of demographic of that magazine. And I've already got it. I've got people that I know are good that suit them. So where else does having a big content source book come in handy?
Well, I think definitely if you do a lot of pitching, if you're pitching stories to magazines or clients or agencies, I mean, it's huge, isn't it? Having all that organized and ready at your fingertips.
Yeah, for sure. I think having that sort of list of sources before sending a pitch, sometimes if you're trying to do it, it take ages, but you've got like a good source, people that are happy to be quoted, that you can get in touch with. It makes it so easy to pluck out the right one to include in a pitch. But of course, they've got to be good, quality people. I mean, I have some experts in building, interior design and architecture that I use a lot, and I try and mix it around. I don't want to use the same people all the time because that can be a worry too. What sort of experts do you have?
Well, like I said, I've categorized mine. So I've got a finance category. I've got financial experts, money coaches and authors in that space. And then I do a lot of business writing for veterinary magazines. So I have vets and animal behavioral experts and vet clinic practice managers that I can call on. Also, I do a lot of writing for a dental business magazine. So I've got dentists on speed dial,
Mm.
and then health and lifestyle, which was where I sort of started out as a magazine journo. So I've got lots of psychs, nutrition experts and sexperts, sexual, health people and
love that.
parenting experts. I know, it's, when I think about it, there's lots of kind of things that I cover because I'm a generalist, really. So yeah, people I could go back to again and again, and are chosen for that specific purpose that I know they're not one-offs, I suppose.
So what do you think makes a good expert or a source that you go back to again and again?
I reckon there's a lot of variables in that question, but for me, the expert would have to be really media savvy. They have to be good at giving you quotes that aren't dumbed down so much, but are in that easy to understand language. And I also keep notes on which experts specialize on topics and whether they're good for phoners or email.
Yeah.
And I know some editors really frown on email interviews, but I think if you've built a really good relationship with a source and you know they're the type of person who likes to respond on email and they can take the time to think about it and craft you a really decent quote, that's invaluable, and it saves you time transcribing, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. You just mentioned relationship building, which we've talked a lot about on the podcast in terms of clients and editors, but I think it applies to the contacts as well, don't you reckon?
I think it does. And it's a different kind of relationship building to people who are giving you work, but just as important, just sort of treat your sources with respect. So for content marketing, if you're doing a lot of that, it's often part of the brief that you need to check the quotes with the experts before you file. And they love that, don't they? They really
do.
Yeah, they love feeling they're not going to be misquoted, and it builds trust with you, the writer. I know that this can backfire, and I've heard over and over from other freelancers who have used sources that are perhaps not as media savvy. It's getting back to that point. Someone who's used to being quoted in the media and isn't going to get cold feet the minute that they see their quotes, because they might try and strip out the personality in their quotes, or they might try and rewrite their quotes, because they kind of freak out, I suppose. So I don't really have that problem. And I wonder if that's because the sources that I have are sort of media savvy and realize, it's going to be okay. And
they trust you.
Maybe there's a bit of that. I've used them over and over, so they know that they're not going to get stitched up, in print or anything like that. But also one way around it is to say, really firmly in email, and you redact the quotes in the story that aren't theirs, so they can't see other people's quotes. But please approve your quotes and let me know of any inaccuracies, which is a kind of firm way of saying, please do not change your words around or, edit it. But I know a lot of journalists will also ring a source and read back the quotes to them over the phone, which can also work, I guess.
Yeah, it does. That's tricky. It depends on the source. I try and pick, depends who wants to be phoned and who wants to be emailed. I always check my quotes, check quotes with all my sources before they go to print. Clients ask for it, as you said, and so do most editors these days. Yeah, most of the home magazines, they want to check it. Of course, I'm not doing sort of investigative journalism, so that's something.
Yeah, I think the other good sort of relationship building tip with sources is not to abandon them once they help you out, which is sometimes tricky because you're moving on with the story and you forget and you're filing and then you're going on to the next project. But if you can, always remember or set reminders to sort of go back and thank them and say, my editor loved that piece and it's getting great traction online, if it is. I think those little bits of feedback are a really nice way of building the relationship with that source.
Absolutely. That's a great reminder. That's something I actually learned from Tori Archbold, who was a guest on the podcast last year.
Yes. Yeah.
Because she was a big thing about sharing the metrics, such as clicks or UAs or likes or whatever, and saying that they're great, valuable feedback, because your guests or your sources, they don't get that. And that really helps them to know how well it's done. I usually send feedback back to the editor if the source tells me that they've got good business, because editors love that. I did a piece for the Herald a while ago about a landscape designer, and he just said he's got more work from that than anything else he'd ever done. And the editor was thrilled with that.
Oh, wow.
So that's quite surprising. It makes them feel like they're doing something.
Yeah.
And I also think it's good to say, do you mind if I get in touch when I'm writing on this topic again? So they're prepared to know they're in your experts file.
Yeah.
And then social media, I'm a bit of a stalker on social media, as we all are. So I usually start following all my sources on social media, especially LinkedIn and Instagram, which are my favorite too. And that means when the article is finished, I can link them or tag them and everything. It's quite a powerful thing to tag them. And it helps to increase the reach of your story, because your story gets shared on your social media. They usually pick it up and share it, and it ends up helping everybody.
That's so true. I never used to do that. We just chuck the link up there and say, just worked on this and here's the story sort of thing. But when you do tag in those experts, you're right, it increases the reach of that. So more eyeballs on your work. It is boosting their profile, which they all want and which they'll love you for. Editors love it because it might get shared multiple times if you've got several experts in the piece. Yeah, it's really, really great to do that. Just to take that moment before you share it, to like all the people who helped you with it, and then say, thanks so much for the insights on this piece, tagged.
Well, I have to admit that's also about looking after them, because I've had a few sources, particularly interior designers, because I've been doing this for some time, that their profile has increased a lot because of my work. So there's one that I might have done a story, it might have been a design like a new kitchen or something. And then I thought, oh, they're really good talent. And I've used them as experts in other stories and tagged them. And then they start getting called more and they get a bit of career. A couple may have even got TV gigs out of me.
Yeah.
And so I think that helps. And also that means they always answer my call, even though now they've got a bigger profile. I'm still at the top of their list because they know I gave them a break right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a difference too.
The power of tagging.
The power of tagging. Yeah.
And keeping your sources happy. It is really powerful. And I think it's something we don't really think about that much, do we? Like, people help us out and sometimes we don't thank them or we don't think about them again until we need them again. But it is about that relationship building. And another thing you can do is you can send a link to the story. If they want a hard copy and it's a magazine story, you can organise that with the editor. But all of those things that we've talked about, I think, go so far towards being able to call that person again and they'll be happy to help you out in a pinch.
Yeah, for sure.
That's been my experience. Yeah.
I also make a note of the on sale date of a publication. And this is particularly important with magazines because often I'm working 3 to 4 months ahead of when it comes out. It's so easy to just move on, as you say, and forget. I forget, and sometimes I have the bad habit of seeing a magazine's going off sale and it had my story in it. I've got to keep a tab. A lot of the sub-editors really like me because I've got that background as sub-editors and I try and give them as much supporting material and make their lives easier. And I have one of the subs who's just a delight. And every month he sends me a PDFs just of all the stories that I have in that month because he knows that I value them and I send them out to all my sources. And he's just lovely. So I don't even have to hassle for it. He just does that. And he's one of my best sources. But I try and make his life easier by giving him as much information. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing, before you share it, I always check it first because I have had the difficult thing of sharing something and there's mistakes in it.
Yeah.
And usually I'll say this, it's not my mistakes, it's mistakes that happen post me and there is nothing worse. So before you share it,
yes,
always check.
Totally. I had this situation actually recently where this vet had a very long name, like extremely long name. And I checked the name, I checked the spelling with the vet and I put it through knowing it was correct, right? It made it into print incorrectly.
Oh,
and
my God.
I checked that, like you said, I checked the story and I absolutely had a fit because it was I knew that I checked it and I thought, God, and I went back to the version that I filed and it was correct in that. I thought, what has happened? And what had happened was this vet had a website where the name was, his own name was wrong on the website. And the sub had gone to my copy and thought, well, Rachel must be wrong. So I'll take the vet's spelling off the website. And the actual vet hadn't checked his own website. So,
my goodness.
So we saved the day for the online version, but not the print one.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
It's true though. Checking those things before you share them. Oh my God. Yeah. Really important.
I did share a while ago. I did some corporate content piece and I'd sent it off to, the marketing assistant and he'd somehow in in the version, when it was uploaded, the photos and everything were credited to the wrong people. So the wrong brand. So I got photos from another brand, and it's so lucky I checked that, and I just could send an email back and say, oops, it's wrong. Can you just fix this, this, and this? And they did it immediately.
Yeah.
And then, so when I sent it to the other source, everything was tidy. So always do that. And because there's nothing worse, it actually hurts your relationship more, even if it's not your fault.
Absolutely.
You've got a newsletter. So if you have one, do you put experts on your mailing list?
I don't have a newsletter for my freelance work. I have one for Rachel's List, but I don't have one where I send out the stories I've worked on to all my clients and experts and stuff like that. But if you do have that, I can see it being really useful if they're open to being on your mailing list, because they will then see the stories that you're working on, and possibly you could include a call to action to prompt your experts to get in touch with any possible stories that you could pitch, which they might participate in. So yeah, that could work really well.
Yeah, good. I think that's how I use LinkedIn, because that's how LinkedIn really works for me, because I often share my published articles on LinkedIn, and that I think helps to establish my credibility. And as I said earlier, most of my sources I've connected with on LinkedIn, so they'll see it.
Absolutely.
What about your experts? Do you share them with other writers?
Yes, of course I do.
Well, I do too, but it's good to ask, because some people tend to keep their sources really close
to their chest. I know, no, I do. And I find other writers share with me, and that is such a good way, isn't it, of discovering, you know, new sources that you didn't know about, or fresh voices, and building your expert list even more. Because it's easy to be lazy and go back to the same sources over and over. But I think that's something editors will notice, especially if you write in a particular niche. And also, if you're using different ones from time to time, you're not annoying the same ones by ringing them over and over and to get a quote. Yeah, I mean, any members of the Facebook group, the Rachel's List Facebook group, will know that that group is really good for finding experts and sources, because people are really happy to share when you're desperate and all your usual suspects have gone AWOL.
Oh, that does happen too.
Yeah.
And obviously in the last couple of years, things have been all over the place. People aren't doing what they were, and there's a lot of people being ill and things. I think the other great Facebook group is the George's Media Circle, which has a lot of PRs in there. And that's often really helpful too, because I find that's helpful because it's not necessarily my niche. And if I'm going outside, like I'm pretty good if I'm working with architects or builders or something, because I've got a lot of sources, but anything outside that, or something on the edge of my niche, I think, like niche adjacent maybe. So if I might be doing something like health in buildings, and I want a health expert to talk about that. I mean, I've done a few like that. So I also share my design contacts with a lot of journalists. Quite a few people have asked me, because they know I've got a good contact book, and I don't see it as competition. It's all a shared resource, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And having, you know, those sources, like I think we mentioned before, it can give you jumping off points for stories. So you can say to them, is there anything happening in your industry that might be interesting for a future story? And I think that's something that we might have covered on the podcast before, that if you can get another story off a source that you've talked to, you can then re-pitch while you're filing that story, which can really help. I
think it's nice to sort of, as you said before, like pitch the next story when you're filing this one. And I know you used to do that when you pitched to me, Rach.
Oh, did I? Yes.
Yes.
So efficient.
So efficient. And sometimes I've reached out to a source who may not be quite right for the story I'm working with, but they're so interesting that I can frame a new angle that I then pitch to the editor for next time.
Yeah.
You know, there was one person who was this amazing woman, honestly. She was this really inspirational academic and a dentist, and she was so good, but she was so busy, and she got back to me way after my deadline. But I thought, she's remarkable. And so I went to pitch the editor and said, this woman's remarkable. How about we do a profile on her? And he thought it was great. And I think she was the cover story that month, because she was amazing. Mind you, it was a challenge to tie it down for a story and a photo shoot, but she was great.
Amazing. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. So if you are a writer with no real system around corralling your interview subjects and experts, we think it's very important to put one in place. Well, I do. Lynn still keeps most of them in her head, but she might
got
change.
a system. It's just not. It's just a different one.
She might change her mind. She might change her mind after this episode. Who knows? But look, it can save you heaps of time, and it can become a really valuable resource for your freelance business, no matter how you do it. But it is good to have a system. I'm a systems nerd. And that's my final word on that.
Is it? I'm the fly by the seat of the pants and chat with everybody person. So
well,
yes.
If you do want a system, we're going to put a link to the source tracker in the show notes, and we'll also put a link to the folk app that I use for my online CRM, so you guys can check those out.
Sounds good.
Yes.
We wanted to say thanks again to Rounded, who sponsored this episode, because you can find out more about their easy accounting and invoicing software at rounded.com.au.
You can. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.